Hey guys. Long time no see.
It's been a
Thank you
while.
for meeting with us.
Were you there the first?
I was there. I don't think I interviewed with you.
Okay.
Lieutenant Studley
Lieutenant
was
Studley was that
with
time.
me the first time.
I don't
So,
remember a lot.
Yeah. Oh, you're okay.
I don't blame you. It's a lot all at once, and
Usually long time no see is a good thing when you're dealing with a detective.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but I know that both of my kids have mentioned both of you by names, and particularly with you. And
He's a good kid.
Do you guys by chance have a card?
I do in the
I
car,
don't have
Okay.
one.
but not
Okay.
on me. So I'll grab that for you though.
Okay.
So, like I talked to Mr. Kester about, I just want this to be totally ran by you. I won't ask you any questions that are incriminating. We're not looking at you as a suspect or anything like that. We just are more curious of the dynamic and Jody coming into your relationship, your lives. So, if you kind of just want to walk us through that on how she came into your lives and then where things started to change.
Jody, you mean?
Jody.
I
Jody.
thought you said Julie, but.
Oh,
you meant
Jody.
Jody.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jody. Yeah.
yeah, I can do that. I'll ask first. Have you found the pen papers?
The pen papers. So we found quite a bit
They're-
of different
We
journals.
believe they're on the computer, and the rest of them are sealed, like they're trying to mail them off. But we do not have a direct copy of it. No.
Because my understanding was we had purchased as a Christmas present for Jody in 2021 a leather folder that 3 inches thick or whatever, and it had engraved on the leather on the outside the pen papers, and Ruby wrote detailed notes of everything, all interactions with Jody and Pam Botcher from August 2021 until I don't know when.
And you're saying something like, is it like a satchel looking leather bit, or is it more like a binder?
No, it's like I don't even know what to call it. But
It's flat. You
it's
said we
well,
got the
yeah.
fix on it.
It's
So you
just like a
see
shorter, because we do have Ruby's journal, which is from those dates that you mentioned.
Probably
these
about this
things
big.
are going to be so. She wouldn't write the stuff she wrote in the pen paper. She would not write in her journal. The stuff she wrote in the pen papers was not intended to be read by anybody until God would decree them to be written as scripture for the whole world to read.
Okay.
I believe that's what we
have that.
have.
Okay.
Because you're saying the pen would be different, correct? It's like a.
Well, it was just in a thing called the pen papers. So it was, and that's how Ruby referred to those papers.
Yeah.
So it described all of the visions and trances and everything that Jody and
How
Ruby
thick-
went into.
How thick would you say it was?
It was like 3 inches thick or so. And there were hundreds of pages of written documents that Ruby had. And that was given to Jody in 2022 when she left and returned to her home in January. So
This is similar.
yeah, like it would look like that.
Okay.
That's not the journal that we have, so
No, I think you're talking. Looks like a satchel. Or
It's something Jody would not want found,
yeah.
but she wouldn't want to destroy it.
Because
either.
we
Found the
didn't find
empty
that
one.
in the home.
We found an empty one.
We did find an empty one.
I
So
don't remember saying anything
Oh.
on it though. There's an empty thing like that.
Yeah.
There was a full thing, but it was.
If
further
the
back.
empty one says the pen papers on the outside of it, then they emptied it
I
and
don't-
did
I
something
don't
with it.
remember.
we'll go
that.
back through our photos and see if that's
Yeah.
because everything in the
If-
home was photographed. So.
If you're interested in Pam Botcher,
Mhm.
that's going to tie Pam Botcher to all of this, what's in those documents.
Okay.
Okay, so,
Can I just interrupt for a minute? I'm sorry.
Sure.
is it okay to bring the puppies?
Yes, we want the puppies, right?
Okay.
Okay, so why don't you finish here and then call me when you're done and we'll,
Okay.
Hey, will you let the bailiff know we're in here so she can bring us a copy of the order?
okay, let me see if I can find her.
Okay.
Thank
thanks.
you. In 2018, we were cycling. And that's going to be hard to find in today's world. Good luck. Ruby had a very close friend named Paige Hannah, who lives in Mapleton, who was a massive fan of Connections and Jody Hildebrandt. In fact, the Hannahs are on the cover of their book. If you've probably seen them. And so Ruby started to speak with Jody towards the end of 2018, early 2019, with the intention of having her be the therapist to Jody. Jody always had a larger interest in communicating with the parents more than with the actual patient, which I've always found curious. But her theory was, if you want to help your child, you have to help yourself first, and then you'll know how to help the child. So she spoke with Ruby frequently, and the frequency of their communications ramped up. And then the first conversation that Jody had with Chad was in June of 2019 while we were on a trip to the East Coast. All of her visits with Chad were virtual through Zoom. But she would talk with Ruby on the phone or through Zoom quite frequently. So Jody met with things got really, it got strange around the fall of 2020. The Hannahs were trying to convince and bring Ruby into thank you.
Thanks.
Into this organization called Connections, and that particularly were focused on things like lust versus love, and healthy marriages, happier marriages, happier relationships. She invited me to go to it was like a conference or something held at Thanksgiving Point in Lehigh. And there were like 100 people there, and that was in the fall of 2019, maybe late summer 2019, late summer 2019. And my impression at that time was this is absolute craziness. This is a bunch of man-hating women that are just looking for excuses to tear down their husbands, and I mean that's what it felt like to me when I was in there. But it was confusing because there were people that I respected a lot that were up on the stage with microphones in hand, giving testimonials of how great this was and how it changed their lives and their marriage, and like the Hannahs were among them, And so, yeah, it was confusing. Ruby, then we went on a trip with the Hannahs to the UK in October of 2019. And I swear the whole objective of the trip was to like convince me to get into Connections, because all of them were in it except me. But you know, they made some really eloquent arguments, and I agreed to join a men's group with Jody in January of 2020, and I would do it for 3 months. So I started that men's group in 2020, and you know, the group, I don't know if you've ever been to like an addiction recovery group, but that's what it was. That's what it felt like. I mean, there were probably 10 men in there. It was on Zoom. All of them were like working through, you know, various stages of like sex addiction, porn addiction, drug addiction, and it was just it was like a 12-step group, but intended just for general like addiction recovery, and I really was like, what the hell am I doing here? Like, I don't belong here. But everyone was like, no, come here, like you can learn to have a better like life and a better marriage. And so I thought, okay, whatever. I went through my obligatory 3 months, and I was ready to leave. And then I got challenged to.
Oh, thank you.
And then I got challenged to sit down and have a vulnerable conversation with my wife and ask her how my lustful choices have affected her. And, you know, to me that was like a loaded question. I thought, you know, I still didn't see what I had done or anything that would constitute any form of like, you know, abuse or anything like that. And but I did. I took the challenge, and I sat down, and for 2 hours Ruby very emotionally just shared how she felt in our marriage, and how the things that I over 20 years of marriage, you know, asking for sex as a husband frequently, or asking her to wear lingerie or things like that, how that made her feel. And it was really emotional, and it touched me. Like, I didn't realize that she felt so strongly about that she felt so hurt by that. And so I committed that I would really give it a go. And I stayed in the men's group. And so, you know, in that men's group, I met with Jody every week, with the other men that were in the group. And then it got weird, because like our marriage felt like it was getting better and stronger. So this was now, you know, summer and fall of 2020, and in addition to that, there was the whole YouTube cancel thing. I don't know how much you guys are even interested or aware of that, but in May of 2020, some videos that Ruby released on that dealt with Chad just blew up in her face, and it was all over the news, and hundreds of thousands of TikTokers and all this stuff were just piling on, and basically burned down like our YouTube channel. And overnight, like, the income went, you know, we lost 90% of the income overnight, and that was hard.
Was this like the, which episode was this? Was this the one where they talked about like the beanbag? Or Okay.
Yeah, and then they started going back and trying to dig and find, and then they'd find these
Every
little
little thing.
nuggets like, oh, look, Eve went to school without a lunch one day, or, you know, stuff like that. And, but it was the beanbag video that really set people off.
So then they went back from there.
Mhm. So at that time, Ruby was really distraught, and she was looking for support. She was looking for someone who would understand her, who would validate her, and she found that in Jody. all the stuff she did with Chad was because of Jody, and so